This is lesson 15-4, graphing equations. Our essential question, how can you graph a linear equation? And this picture is a quick example of what we're going to be doing. We have one vocab word. A linear equation is when an equation is graphed in a straight line. Example number 1. Make a t-table, which is what I did right here. This is a t-table. And fill in the values using the equation. That's just like what we did in the last lesson. And now we're also going to add in graphing that equation. So, if they do not give you any values for x, that means you get to pick them. You can pick any values you want. It's easier to stay with lower numbers, but of course you don't have to. So I went ahead and just picked the numbers 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to solve and finish filling in this table. So I'm going to put a 1 in place of the x first. So it's going to be y equals 3 times 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Then I'm going to put in a 2 in place of the x. So y equals 3 times 2, which is 6. Then the last one, I'm going to put in a 3. Y equals 3 times 3, which is 9. So now we've completed the table, and now we're going to graph. Remember that your x values tell you how many to go over, and your y values tell you how many to go up or down. So let's look at our first. These are our first points. 1, 3. So our first point is the x, which is 1. So that tells us to go over to 1. And the y is 3, which tells us to go up to 3. So over to 1, up to 3, and make your point. Next one is over to 2, up to 6. Last one, over to 3, up to 9. Then you connect the points with 2 arrows, and I know my line was not very straight there because I can't use a ruler on this thing, but you should be using a ruler to connect your lines. And as you can see, it makes a straight line. That's why it's called a linear equation. Example 2. Which point is on the graph of y equals x plus 4? Now this is actually easier than it seems, and you are going to see this on the test. So all you have to do is look at these values and plug in the numbers for x and y and see which one makes sense. Remember, your first number is the x and your second one is the y. So I'm going to put just a little x and a y over all of our numbers so we don't forget. All right, let's start with our first points. 0 and 4. So I'm going to use the equation right here, y equals x plus 4, and I'm going to put in a 0 for x and a 4 for y and see if it works. So y, I'm going to put in a 4 equals, then I have x, so I'm going to put in 0 plus 4. And now I solve. 4 equals, I know 0 plus 4 is 4. Then I tell myself, is that true? Does 4 equal 4? Well, yes, it does. So this point would be on the graph. Now let's just go through a few other of these so we can practice. We're using the same equation. Now this time we're going to put a 3 in place of the x and a 3 in place of the y. So we have y, which is 3, equals x, which is 3, plus 4. And then we solve. 3 equals 3 plus 4 is 7. And we know 3 does not equal 7, so that is not on the graph. Now the next one, we put in a 6 in place of the x and a 2 in place of the y. So y is 2 equals x, which is 6, plus 4. 2 equals 6 plus 4 is 10. 2 does not equal 10. Last one, we put in a 7 for x, a 3 for y. 3 equals 7 plus 4. 3 equals 11. Not true. So, only our first point would be on the graph. All right, we're doing the same thing like we did in example number 1. So let's use these x values and plug them in and find our y's. So for the first one, we have y equals x, which is going to be 1, minus 4. Now let's look at a number line. If we start at 1 and we subtract 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, we end up at a negative 3. So I know negatives are a little bit confusing, but use a number line to help you figure that out. So then when we do the next one, y equals, we plug in a 2 for the x, so 2 minus 4 is going to be a negative 2. Then the last one, y equals 3 minus 4 is going to be a negative 1. Now let's go ahead and plot our points. Our first one is our x and our y. We have 1, negative 3. X tells us how many to go over. Y tells us how many to go up or down. So, over 1, down to negative 3. The next points, over 2, down, negative 2. Last one, over 3, down, negative 1. Connect the points with 2 arrows. Our last example, what equation can be used to graph this line? And there's 2 possible equations. Y equals x plus 1 and y equals 3 minus x. And you are going to see this on your test also. So here's how you figure it out. What you do is you pick any point on the line. So I see a point right here. I'm going to use this point to help me figure this out. Now I determine what my x value is and what my y value is. Well, I can see it goes over to the 2. So that means the x equals 2. And it goes up to 1. So my y value equals 1. Now I just use these values and plug them into these equations and see if it's true. So let's start with the first one. My y is 1, so I have 1 equals, my x is 2 plus 1. 1 equals 3. Not true. Let's do the next one. My y is 1 equals 3 minus my x is 2. 1 equals 1. That is true. So this equation can be used to graph the line. So what you do is you just pick any point on that line Figure out what the x value and the y value is of that point, and then plug those numbers into the equation in place of the x and the y, and then solve and see if it's true. Here are 2 practice problems. You can use a t-table on the side like I have, or you can choose different numbers if you want. Don't forget a word problem or a question, and rate your understanding.